Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and the two hell kittens, actual cats, not humans, Minerva and Astoria, and this is my corner of the internet where we talk about all the things that I am making. That includes knitting and spinning and potentially sewing and potentially weaving. It is just fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. There are a million voices vying for your attention on the internet, and you saw whatever this is, and decided to give it a go, and that makes you a rad human. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for coming back. You already know what time it is. Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to preface this by saying that this is going to be a long episode. I have been a busy bee, and I've been making a lot recently, and I have a lot to catch you up on, and honestly, it is impossible for me to do these weekly, but because I do these every other week, by the time I get here, sometimes I have a lot to talk about. And this week I have a lot to talk about. I have a lot of things to show you, a lot of things that I've been up to. So we are going to quit chit-chatting and we're just going to get right into it because I don't have any like life updates, right? Like I've been here. Hello, I'm here. I'm still here. I don't have any life updates. So we're going to quickly go to the stuff, to the finished objects because I have so many. Let's go. So finished object number 1. I finished my stick season. Woo, it's so finished. It's finished. It's blocked. It's beautiful. This is my stick season pullover. This is by Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea on YouTube, and I think that's her username on Instagram. And it is a DK weight sweater. Old heads would know that I cast this on November of 2023. It has been 17 months. It's been a long journey. It's been a long time. This sweater and I have been going through it. Now, I've been working on this for what feels like forever. I've put it down. It's gone in hibernation. It's come back out of hibernation. It's gone in hibernation. It's gone back out of hibernation. It's finished. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, so the Stick Season by Rebecca Clow is a really fun sweater. It has this like fun textured detail, and then it has like some fun ribbed panels that go down all the sides. I knit mine out of Wool Dreamers Moda, which this yarn was gifted to me. This yarn was gifted to me because I reached out to to Wool Dreamers for yarn support, and I was like, hey, I want to make this sweater for my birthday. Do you want to like partner with me? And they were like, that sounds great. And then I never finished the sweater. So, you know, it took me a while. I'm still really grateful for the yarn. I'm still really glad that they partnered with me. I got it done. It just took me forever. So let's talk some details. I knit the size 5, which is a 48.5 bust. And I don't know what my finished sweater is, but it fits. I don't know what the finished circumference of my sweater is. I didn't gauge swatch for this. I went through Ravelry to try to find my notes, and I have no notes because I didn't make any notes. I didn't gauge swatch. I was just like, cast on! So I did knit this according to pattern. I used the recommended needle size. So Rebecca called for size 4, which is a 3.5. I'm trying to be better by including the metrics and like the US sizes. And if I get it wrong, it's because I don't know them. And I might be making them up, but I'm pretty sure that a US 4 is a 3.5 millimeter needle. So I did that. And then my cuffs, all my ribbing on my cuffs is done on US 3s, which is a 3.25 millimeter needle. And I did size up to size 5s for my sleeves because my gauge always tightens in the round on small circumference needles. So I went up to a 5, which is 3.75 millimeter needles. I don't know what I'm talking about. So that's what I did. This is knit exactly according to pattern. But you know what happens when you're 6 feet tall? Joshua and I actually had a whole conversation about this morning about why all my sweaters are cropped. And I was like, yeah, I just knit things to pattern and things end up cropped. And he was like, why? And I was like, because I'm a giant. Like, I'm literally a giant. I'm 6 feet tall. I have a very long torso and I have very long legs. So if I want a cropped sweater, all I have to do is do what the designer tells me to do, and it will be cropped on me. On the average human, is there an average human? On a shorter human, it'll be a full-length sweater. But on me, this stops like a hair under my navel, which is exactly how I like my knit sweaters to fit. I did do the folded collar, I will say. This funnels a little bit on me. So I think what I'm going to do is get some elastic thread and run some elastic thread through the collar to kind of cinch it in a little bit, because I get a little bit of a funnel neck, which you can't really see because my hair's so long, and it covers it. But I do get a little bit of a funnel neck on this. Otherwise, I have no mods. I knit this exactly according to the pattern, and last time I said I was worried that the sleeves might be a bit too short, and they worked out perfectly. They are not they're a touch longer than bracelet length. I normally like my sleeves to be a little bit like floppy and cover here, but then they get wet all the time. So this is probably a better sleeve length for me. And I have so much yarn left that if I wanted to, I could rip back and, you know, add length. I won't. Let's just be honest. This is me we're talking about. I won't do that. But if I wanted to, I could. So this sweater weighs 430 grams. I was weighing this to do my finished notes in Ravelry, and I was very confused about how the sweater weighs only 430 grams because that means that this sweater is 1,090 yards. And for my size, Rebecca says you should need 1,300. And I was just like, where did the yarn go? But this is a full size. I'm going to hold it up again. This is a full size sweater. It is full length. I knit the body exactly the length that she said it should. I don't know why I used such little yarn compared to what she said you need. I mean, this is a woolen spun yarn, so maybe that contributes to why I use such little yarn. But yeah, I used less than 1,100 yards to make a 48-inch. That's what it should be. It fits me, and I have a little bit of ease, so I'm assuming that's what it is. I have a 45-inch bust. This fits me with a little bit of ease. I'm assuming that this is 48, 47, 49, somewhere along those lines. Yeah, it's only 1,000 yards. No, 1,100 yards. It's less than 450 grams. So it's a really lightweight sweater. That's the magic of woolen spun yarns. Worsted spun yarns couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They might want to. But they just can't. They can't. So that is finished object number 1. And I'm assuming at some point I will have put some B-roll of me running through the botanic garden in my sweater over top me talking so that you can see what it looks like on my body. I'm really, really excited. This is exactly what I wanted. It's a sweatshirt. It's exactly what I wanted. And I'm really pleased with it. And this is now my second finished object of 2025. It is February. It's not February. It is March 8th. It is Saturday, March 8th in the year of our Lord 2025. I don't know what year you're watching this, but that is the year I'm watching this. I wore this outside today and I was a little bit concerned that I was going to be toasty, but it was like 40 degrees in New York City and I had this on under my coat and I was comfortable. I'm going to try to wear this at least 3 or 4 more times before it warms up too much for wool. Because if it does, my next project is ready. It's ready for it to warm too much for wool. I'll be right back. Finished object numero dos is my Felia cardigan. It's finished, you guys. It's finished. Last time I showed you it needed sleeves and an I-cord. It has gotten sleeves and an I-cord. Look at how that lace blocked. I told you guys it was going to block out beautifully. It's gotten sleeves. It's gotten its I-cord. It's been blocked. All the ends have been woven in. It is finished. This is the Felia cardigan by Irene Lynn, and I knit mine out of Derirum Natura Cyrano in the color Tempet, and I used, I don't know where my phone is. I used 5.7 skeins, and I don't know what that works out to in terms of yardage, and I will put it somewhere on the screen because I don't have my notes in front of me. I literally only know the stick season stuff because I weighed it right before I started filming, but I finished this some time ago. It is perfect. I wore it outside to give it its test run, and it is actually a little bit too cold for this without a jacket, but the second it starts to warm up where I can stop wearing my coat and I can put a layer on underneath this is going to be the perfect transitional piece. It's going to be everything I hoped for. Now, I will say I knit the extended length, so the Irene has you knit on repeat and add 3.5 inches, and this is so cropped on me that it makes me wonder what the cropped length would be. It would probably be a bralette. Like it would probably sit right around my bra straps. This is so cropped on me. And I probably should have checked the schematics because there is a universe where I added one more repeat before I bound it off. I'm not fixing this. I would have to rip all of the neckband out. I would have to rip all this ribbing out. I'm not doing it. It fits fine, and honestly the way I'm going to wear it is with high-waisted jeans and like t-shirts anyway, but I think if I were to remake it, I would add a second repeat and make it a touch longer because I think for a cardigan, for a sweater I'm okay with it being cropped. For a cardigan, I wish it was a touch longer. And this is the extended length. It's not Irene's fault. It's my fault. I'm a giant and I didn't check the schematic and I should have done both of those things. Well, I am being a giant. I can't not do that. I should have checked the schematic before I switch, but most of the time I knit according to pattern. The designer says do this, and I go, okay, thanks for the instructions, and I don't check things. So yes, that is my only, like, it's not necessarily a quibble, because it's a perfect pattern. I just wish it was a touch longer, and that's my own fault. I should have checked things. But the pattern was super well written, super easy to follow. The lace is all written out row by row, which, like, Some days I was like, do I need a chart? But it's the same thing over and over. It's just yarn overs and like knit two togethers and then yarn overs and SSKs. The lace is so easy. If you're looking for a beginner lace project, this is an excellent beginner lace project. And even though it's a bulky yarn, or like a bulkier yarn, I think Cyrano advertises itself as like a heavy Aran. I would say this is a bulky yarn. Even though it's a bulky yarn, well, one, the Dorema Miniatura yarn has excellent stitch definition, but because it's so lacy and so open, it is actually not a hot sweater to wear. Like, I literally had this on and I was like, oh, this is chilly. I need to put on another layer. So as it warms up, this is going to be an excellent piece of my wardrobe, I'm so glad I made it. And honestly, there is still a universe where I make it again in a lighter color and I make it longer. I might actually do it because if I focus, this is like a 1.5 week project. It took me as long as it did because I don't focus on anything and I am not a monogamous knitter because monogamy is for the birds. I said what I said. Monogamy is for the birds, so I'm not a monogamous knitter. And so it took me a little bit longer, but there's a universe where I could have banged this out in a 1.5 weeks if I was just really focused. So I might actually make another one of these in like a cream color, like a cream or oatmeal color, so that I have a completely different color in my wardrobe and I make it longer. Like I do 2 extra repeats so that the body would be like, it would add like this much more to the body and that would cover my butt because this sits right at like high hip. And I think if I had it a little bit longer and it covered my butt, I might be able to wear it with different things and style it a bit differently. But I love this. Like I love this and I cannot wait to wear it all the time. And this is now my third finished object of 2025. And my last FO for this video is I finished my Hoarfrost, which look at it. It's so big. It's so big. So I remember saying that I was concerned that this was not going to block. Concerned is a loose word, but my phone's in my pocket, you guys. I can tell you exactly what the yardage is. I forgot my phone was in my pocket. Hold the phone. I can tell you exactly what the yardage is in my my Felia cardigan. Should I have had this ready? Sure. Okay, my Felia cardigan is 831 yards, which is less yardage that I read. I know that designers add a buffer. I am finding that the buffer that designers add is just extraordinary because if you buy yarn, based on what the designers say you should need, I routinely have anywhere from 100 to 200 yards left, and then I have all these leftovers. But then you don't want to like shortchange it, and then you find the designer who gives you exactly how much you need, and then you're like, well, what am I gonna do? But now I have a whole skein and a half left of Cyrano that maybe I'll make a hat. I don't know. I have like 200 yards. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I bought what she said you were going to need, and I had so much leftover yarn, which is the same with this. So this pattern was written. This pattern is written for a worsted weight yarn. And I knit mine out of DK because that's what I wanted to do. And I'm my own boss. So I knit mine out of DK weight yarn. And the pattern says that this will have like a finished wingspan of 70 inches. And I was like, there's no way. I finished mine and it felt so small. And I was like, there's no way this is going to get a finished wingspan of 70 inches. And that's my own fault because I use a DK weight yarn. And then I weighed my yarn when I was done. And this only has 530 yards in it. And the pattern says you need 900, which is what I allocated for this project. 900 yards, which again, I don't know if it's because it's 900 yards of worsted weight yarn or because I use DK weight yarn. I don't know. She also used a woolen spun yarn for her sample, and this is also woolen spun. So like nothing accounts for the deviation and why this is only 530 yards of yarn and not 900. But when I blocked it, it is 72 inches. Like the wingspan on this is incredible. And I did not stretch this out. The only part that I stretched out was the lace because I wanted the lace to block out. But this like 3x1 ribbed texture, I did not stretch out at all. I just put it on the blocking mats. 72 inches. It is ginormous. Like it is such a big, it's a big shawl. I mean, I'm not going to keep it on because my hair looks crazy. It is such a big shawl. It's beautiful. This is Isaiah Jensen, which like if you've ever touched Jensen and you haven't like knit with it, it feels rustic. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sensitive to wool, so it doesn't bother me, but this feels rustic. As you work it, it softens. It's incredible. Like as I was knitting it, my fabric kept getting softer and softer every time I touched it. And then I blocked it out. It's beautiful. So like if you've touched Isaiah Jensen and you're like, oh no, that's not for me, it is absolutely stunning once it's blocked out. It is airy. It is super soft. It's not terribly warm. I mean, it's woolen spun, so it's, you know, warmer than your worsted spun yarns, but it worked out. I'm super pleased. I'm super pleased. I'm a shawl person. I didn't think I was, but I'm a shawl knitter and I'm a shawl wearer. And I think my book bag projects are just going to be shawls and cowls and hats, which is, you know, great, because who wants to take a sweater to knit like outside? But shawls and cowls and hats are going to be my book bag project. And here's my FO number 4, you guys. FO number 4. Now, if you're keeping track, I have 837 yards, and then I have 530 yards. So that is 1,360 yards. And then I have just about 1,100 yards in my stick season. So that is 2,460 yards out of my stash in this video alone, which is incredible. That is incredible that in 3 objects I've moved essentially 2,500 yards out of stash. Obviously, that still exists behind me. So I don't know that so let's just say I'm not trying to stash down. I'm not going to do a no buy. I'm not going to do any of those things. What I am going to do is prioritize working from stash. And if there's something that like super special that's calling my name, maybe. If it's a base that I don't have, like I don't have Suri for real. So if I want to try Suri, maybe. But like I'm really going to try to prioritize, because this is all sweater quantities. When I buy yarn, I buy sweater quantities like a maniac. So this is literally all sweater quantities. There is literally no reason for me to go out in the world and spend money besides the fact that the world is ending and, you know, dopamine. Gotta get your dopamine somewhere. So, the FO number 4 for 2025. Let's talk works in progress. So, I'm gonna tell you, I have 5 works in progress to show you, and you haven't seen any of these. And you're like, Tazhi, what are you talking about? You literally haven't seen any of the works in progress that I'm gonna show you. I did not touch my autumn alpine this week at all. I don't know what it is about that pattern. Is that true? I don't know what it is about that pattern, but I haven't touched that pattern, that sweater this week at all. Eventually I would like to finish it, but like, you know, things go on hiatus all the time and that's fine. And my study session, literally all I did this week is knit 1.5 inches on the ribbing on the body. So like, I don't know if it was worth it to haul out and show it to you. New people probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Go watch the previous episodes. I talk all about the study session in the previous episode. It's a pattern by my friend Sam. Her name's Samantha Guerin. Her name's not my friend Sam, but that's what I call her because she's my friend Sam. She could be your friend Sam too. Just, you know, buy her pattern, support her stuff. She's a brilliant designer. But I only knit 1.5 inches on the body on it, so I was just like, is it worth hauling it out when I have so much else to show you? So let's get to the whips. So I am sticking to my commitment to myself, to pull out a whip, like a languishing whip every time. I just almost dropped it. To pull out a languishing whip every time I finish one. And since my stick season has been languishing since November 2023 and it is off my needles, I went and grabbed another whip that has been languishing since December of 2023. And here is my Doppio Sweater by Seung-hee Hong. When I picked it up, this is literally where we were. This is where the stitch marker is. This little light bulb stitch marker, that's where we were. Like I literally had cast it on, knit the short rows, did like 2 increases, and then put it away for 16 months. And I don't know what happened to me, but I picked it up and I've been flying. So, this progress keepers from the last time I worked on it, ignore that. But I've been flying. So I have since finished all the increases. I have split for sleeves and I have started the body. And this is all in like 2 days work because this is knit on 10.5s. It is so fast. So the Doppio is knit from 3 yarns held triple. I was gonna say 3 yarns held double, but that's not how math works. 3 yarns held triple, and I'm almost finished with my first bunch of yarns. So this is linen quill, as it falls. This is linen quill, Pearl Soho linen quill in the color Hemlock Green. This is luminous Brooklyn mohair in the color Cobblestone. And this yarn's really special because it's dyed by Argyle Yarn Shop, which is my local yarn shop in Brooklyn. They have a dye studio in the shop. And then this seems so silly holding this up. This is Red Door Fiber Studios fingering, one of Kate's sock bases in the color Insignificant Human. It was from her A Court of Thorns and Roses base, A Court of Thorns and Roses collection. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Tazhi, isn't that on Superwash Merino? And that's correct. That is in fact on Superwash Merino. I will say 2 things about knitting with Superwash. Holding it with something else, I think, mitigates a lot of the Superwash yuck. Because I don't feel it the way I feel like if I was knitting Superwash single. So holding it with the linen quill, which is like wool, alpaca, and linen. And the mohair, I think, mitigates a lot of that yucky feeling. But I will say, Kate's Superwash base is one of the nicest superwash yarns I've ever held. I know it all has to do with where you source your yarns and yada yada, but Kate's Superwash is kind of brilliant. Like, it's really, really nice. I will still not be buying Superwash. That's just not my vibe. But I am trying to like use up what I have, and holding it with other things is a really easy way to make it go. And also this yarn, this sweater goes so fast. My favorite thing is the mohair has like some of these places where it gets a little gold. I hope you can see that on camera. First of all, this fabric is incredible. I love this like marled green fabric that I'm getting, but the mohair gets a little bit gold in some places. The Doppio is a compound raglan. And if you're not familiar with a compound raglan, the sleeves and the body disagree. What? They increase at different rates. So it creates this like raglan seam that is kind of like a curve. I hope you can see that. The raglan seam is like an S-shaped because the increases happen at different rates, and it creates a better fit in raglan, so you don't have all that extra fabric under your arm where you don't need it. The raglan is written for lifted increases, and I will tell you a fun thing about this. Because I was knitting this at 2 different times, and I was a bit under the influence. One of the times I was knitting it, half of my increases are lifted increases, and half of my increases are make one lefts and make one rights, because I kept forgetting what I was doing. You can't tell in the fabric. Like, I keep looking at my raglan seam. I think because the raglan is so thick, it's like a 4-stitch raglan, you kind of can't tell that my increases are a little bit different. And I imagine it'll block out, but it did make me laugh every time I got to a row and I was like, which increase did I work last time? They are a little bit different in person, but from here, it just looks like a raglan sweater. This is going to be, oh, look at this color on me. This is going to be a sweatshirt. It is going to be entirely too warm for this by the time I finish it. It's entirely too warm for it. I'll tell you a fun thing. I'll tell you a funny thing. Well, I think it's funny. I think what's happening is I'm rebelling against the internet telling me that I should be preparing to knit spring and summer knits. I have mohair in my throat. Hold on. I think what's happening is I'm rebelling against the internet telling me if I open YouTube, listen, hate the player, not the game. That's not right. I don't know, hate the game, not the player. If I open YouTube and I see one more video where it's just like, prepare to knit spring and summer knits, I might lose my mind, because I don't like summer fibers. I don't like summer fibers. I don't like fingering weight yarn. That's true. I don't like knitting on toothpicks, which is a thing that I've said before. I want to work with wool year round, and I only want to knit on 5, 6, and 7s. I will knit on 8s. I've been knitting on 10.5s, but I want to knit on 5, 6, and 7s, and I want to knit wool year round. And I think because everyone's getting excited to knit for spring and summer, I'm like, no, I will in fact not do that. And I'm going to go work on my bulky weight sweater, which is just a perfect example of me being intransigent and silly. That's all it is. There's nothing wrong with knitting for spring and summer. And maybe if I found a summer fiber that I loved, I might actually consider it. But also, knitting on toothpicks when you have a 45-inch bust, fingering weight sweaters on my body seems crazy. Like, it just seems like an inordinate amount of time that I'm going to do. So that seems really silly, because I'm ranting about a thing and then I'm going to tell you a thing in like a half hour and you're going to be like, Tazhi. And I'm going to be like, yes, I know. So anyways, that was work in progress 1. That was my languishing whip. Everything else is just a frivolous cast on. Work in progress number 2 is a test knit from my friend Alicia Plummer. She had this like sweater that I saw in her stories, and it was like a quarter zip, drop shoulder, just like a classic shape, classic silhouette. And she called for testers, and I sent her a message on Ravelry, and it was like please, was just like heart eye emojis, like, please, can I please make this? I have been furiously working on this, and I will say it's because it's bottom up. So like, you do all the easy stuff first, and now we're getting to the hard stuff where now I'm gonna actually have to think. But for now, well, yeah, it's bottom up, so it's just stockinette. Yes, I know. This is a lot of stockinette in the round. I know, you don't have to tell me. This is a lot of stockinette in the round. I took this to D&D one day when we were exploring my character's backstory, and I was so stressed out about everything that was happening in Nini's life that I knit 6 inches in like 4 hours on this. I was just like, just furiously going round and round as we were million my character's family and all hell was breaking loose. So I have finished literally all the body, and I've already started actually binding off I've started binding off stitches at the underarms, and I'm ready to split my front and back stitches and start working my front and back individually. But yeah, no, I cast this on like a week and a half ago, and this was perfect for Dungeons and Dragons. That's literally the only reason I've gotten so much progress is I took it to D&D. I did the ribbing at home and then took this and then zoomed. This is, I did tell you the yarn. Okay, so this is Blue Sky wool stock in the color Cranberry Compote. Blue Sky wool stock is one of my favorite workhorse yarns. It is my favorite workhorse yarn. It comes in worsted and fingering, and honestly, their worsted can be knit at DK weight gauge if you tighten it up a little bit. And because I knit with this often enough, I know my gauge. So like I get 19 stitches on US 7s, 18 stitches on US 8s. I don't have to swatch. I know my gauge. I get it. I mean, I swatch for this anyway because this is a test knit and I want to do things properly. But I rarely have to swatch with that yarn because I use it all the time. Is it Peruvian wool? It's non-superwash and it's wool. I think it's like one of those Peruvian highland wools. I find it next to skin. I find it very soft. It's 2-ply. I don't know if it's woolen or worsted. It's a 2-ply construction. It's lightly plied, so it's a really like softly spun yarn. But I don't find that it like unspins or pills. It's just a really good yarn, and they come in a million colors, and it's at an excellent price point. So if you're looking for a worsted weight yarn or the fingering weight version at an excellent price point, and you're looking to work with non-superwash, I would highly recommend the Blue Sky wool stock. Now, there's not much to show you. I just have a body. The only modification I've made so far is I added 1.5 inches to this because Alicia says to knit the body to 11 inches. And because I don't want this to be super cropped on me, I did knit it to 12.5. So I've added 1.5 inches. And now we're about to do some interesting stuff. But yeah, no, this is frivolous cast on. No, I mean, is it frivolous if it's a test knit? Frivolous cast on number 1. Frivolous cast on number 2. This is real frivolous. I cast this on yesterday. Sari Nordland dropped the Northern Lights pullover. And I had a skein of handspun, and the colorway was called Aurora. And I literally I could not. Like, I actually categorically could not. I couldn't. And I was dreaming of okay, so most of the things that I've worked on recently have been drop shoulders. Except the Doppio, which I just picked back up. But like literally everything that I've been making recently has been a drop shoulder. So it is so much like knit this, then pick up this stitches, then join this, and knit this, and pick up these stitches. And I was just like, can I just get a round yoke? And can I get some color work in my life? And I've talked to you guys about potentially starting the Luma, which is that I'm going to knit in Blue Sky wool stock, and I know the gauge. So I thought that was going to be my next color work pullover. And then Sari dropped this, and I was like, actually, never mind. So here's Aurora. Here's what the yarn looks like. This is on Cormo. Is it not Northern Lights? Is it not Northern Lights in a skein? I will say this is sport weight, and the pattern is written for worsted weight, and I don't care. I don't care. If it means that my color work doesn't block out super smooth, then that is like the consequence of the choices that I've made. I don't care. But I've been daydreaming about a low contrast color work sweater, and then I saw this, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. So here's my yoke so far. Here's where we are. I'm going to open this up so you can kind of see it. I'll bring it up so you can kind of see it. Isn't it? You guys, isn't it? So my main color is wool stock, again, Blue Sky wool stock, and this is the color cast iron, which is like a dark gray, gunmetal, almost black. And oh my gosh, this low contrast color work is sending me. It is so I saw one of the testers do a version of like a dark gray yarn with a color changing spin cycle that was very similar to this color family, but like more pastel colors. And I was like, yeah, I could get behind that. And then I remembered that I had Aurora, and I was like, no, a low contrast version of this would be... I'm so excited. Did I knit 35 rounds? Also, Sari normally has you do the short rows after the color work, so there was no short rows to distract me, and I didn't have to do the collar ribbon because you pick it up, so there was literally nothing to distract me from casting on and immediately going for it, which is also the reason that I've made so much progress, is because I could cast on and immediately go for it. I didn't have to like knit short rows, I didn't have to do any ribbing, I could just cast on and immediately go to the chart so I could start seeing how the colors look. I love how like from back here you're like, what am I looking at? Like, what is that? This is what I was going for. I was going for something lower contrast where you don't really know what you're looking at, and then the closer you get, the details I'm throwing all my yarn on the floor. The closer you get, the details start to come out, which is what happens. But it's just, it's giving Northern Lights. And considering I'm saying just came back from Iceland. I came back from Iceland a month and a half ago. We didn't see the Northern Lights, but there's just, Sari said that the colorwork motif was inspired by Icelandic yarn and knitting traditions. And even though we didn't see the Northern Lights, this just reminds me a lot of like being happy in Iceland. And so I've just been knitting those feelings and those intentions into this yoke. And it's just, it's indulgent. It's indulgent and it's frivolous because I cast this on literally yesterday. I am knitting the size 5, which is the 50-inch bust. I've worked all the yoke increases that are in the colorwork. So now it's a 65 row chart. I'm at row 35. So now I just have 30 more rows of colorwork. And then I think you do one more increase round and then you split for sleeves. Is it warm? It's too warm for this. By the time I finish this, it's written for a worsted to DK weight yarn. The gauge was 19 stitches. So Sari's a looser knitter. She said 19 stitches on US 6s. I get 19s on wool stock with wool stock on 7s. So I'm doing my colorwork on 8s. 1 to help minimize 1 for tension, but 2 because my yarns are 2 different weights. I figured having it just be a little bit bigger might fix that. Now, this is like early hand spun. This is early hand spun. I spun this in 2022. So there are definitely some places where the yarn's underplied. You can kind of see it like right here. There's some places where the yarn is underplied, some places where the spinning is not super consistent. You can see some places right here where the stitches are a little bit bigger. You can kind of see that. And this is why I tell people to just knit with your hand spun anyway, because even though this is imperfect yarn, in the fabric, it's beautiful. Now, up close, if you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, there are some places where that yarn's a little bit lumpy. There are some places where those singles aren't super even. But like from far away, it just looks like fabric. And also, if someone's close enough to you to criticize like the consistency of your hand spun, tell them to go away and mind their business. Like, knit with your yarn. I know a lot of people are just like, oh, my yarn's not consistent enough to knit with it. Knit with your yarn. Like, this is yarn I spun. I have yarn to show you. I totally forgot. This is yarn that I spun in 2022 and it's knitting up beautifully. Now, that's not obvious to anyone. If I'd spun this like yesterday, it probably might be a little bit more tightly plied and probably a little bit more consistent, but also I had it ready to go and it's going so well. And actually I have yarn to show you that I have a finished object that I forgot about, but I'm going to show you my other whips and we're going to double back to the yarn. No, I'm going to show you the yarn because it's related to the thing that I'm talking about. I'll be right back. I have been a busy bee. I forgot. So I was doing some spring cleaning. This is a finished object, so we're doubling back and we're going to come forward. I was doing some spring cleaning, and by spring cleaning, I was looking for some bobbins, and I found 3 bobbins of hand-processed CVM that I'd spun in 2022 and never plied. Just sitting on the bobbins. It was a CVM Lambs fleece that I only ordered like a pound of. I only had a piece of it. And I processed it. And spun it up and never plied it. And I found the bobbins. And for a hot second, I thought about just scrapping the singles. So I was just like, I don't know what this is. This is mystery yarn. Like, I knew it was CVM, but it was mystery yarn. I had no idea what it would look like. And I was like, all right, what's the worst that could happen? I'll ply it up and we'll see what happens. Well, here's the yarn. Here's the yarn. Sorry, it's a little bit blown out. We're just going to hold it here. It's a little bit blown out. I have 1,060 yards of 2-ply sport weight CVM. It's actually not bad. It is, there are definitely some places where it is a little bit underspun. And I tried to mitigate that by plying, but plying can only do so much. But it was really interesting to ply yarn that I spun 3 years ago. My spinning is very different now. This is probably more worsted spun than what I normally do. But again, I don't know. It's literally mystery yarn. It's mystery yarn. It's probably a little bit more worsted though. And it is definitely not my most consistent spinning. But again, I spun it 2.5 to 3 years ago when I was only a year into my spinning practice. This is probably my second hand process situation. I was a year into my spinning practice, which is the only reason I know because I have pictures on my phone. I literally had to go in my phone and look for pictures of the bobbins to figure out how long this has been languishing. And I spun it in like May of 2022. So I was like literally a year into my spinning practice, had just started processing my own wool, processing CVM, which is brave. And this is literally what I got. Like, I'm really pleased with it. I'm 100% gonna knit with this. I think honestly, 1,000 yards is enough to do like a lightweight sweater, I think, especially if I hold it with like a mohair. I could definitely get like a lightweight sweater out of this, but I'm definitely gonna make something. But it just goes to show, like, use your stuff. Like, early yarn, beginner, scare quotes, beginner yarn at like any stage of your adventure can still be worked up. And like, don't ever think that your yarn's not good enough to like grow into a finished object because you're waiting to have yarn that looks more like the spinners. Vivian at What Viv Does is like my, I don't even have words. I don't have words. I aspire to be the type of maker that she is. Her work is incredible. And I aspire to be the type of maker that she is. And if I looked at my yarn and looked at Viv's yarn, I'd just be like, well, my yarn's not like as good as Viv's yarn, so should I do anything with it? And like, that is sitting on like the time and the energy and like just the general resources, but also like the stuff that you learn from working with your yarn. Rachel at Wool and Spinning always says that the only way you can learn from your hand spun is by using it, right? Like, you got to work it and see what it becomes in its next life. And so like, use your yarn, use the stuff that you've made in the beginning. And now if you want to save your first few precious skeins to like hold on to for mementos, I get it. I'm never knitting with my first skein of yarn. It is going to be held on forever because it is really nice to have the first thing that I've made and see how far my spinning journey has come. But like, I'm gonna knit with this, and I spun this in 2022. I'm knitting with the yarn that I spun in 2022 right now. Use your stuff up. Like, throw it into fabric. If you're concerned about the integrity of it, hold it double with like a silk mohair or a suri, or marl it with something. But like, honestly, the tensile strength of yarn would surprise you, especially in knit fabric. It can take a bit of a beating. So as long as like it's not drifting apart with every stitch, it is probably okay to be knit up into fabric. Now, I am not like a wool professor, so take everything I say with a grain of salt, but also like, use that stuff up. So yeah, here's another finished object. I have these really bouncy, like, look at that. I love CVM. I have these two really bouncy skeins of mystery. I was calling it mystery yarn while I was plying it because I was just like, who spun this? Like, where did this come from? I have these two really bouncy skeins of mystery CVM that can eventually become a thing. I really do think I'm gonna hold it with like a mohair or a suri and knit like a lightweight pullover. I think like the Cozy Classic Raglan by Jessie May, I might have the right amount of yardage for, especially if I do like a 3/4 length sleeve. But also, like, I knit that whole stick season with 1,100 yards of yarn. So like, I can get sweaters apparently out of this yardage if I'm like cautious. Oh, maybe I'll knit a stickless stick season. I saw Rebecca did that. She knit a stickless stick season. She literally knit the stick season, but with no sticks. And I like the fit of that. So I could also just knit, if I decide I want to do another drop shoulder, knit a stickless stick season and hold this double with mohair to get gauge. So that could be a thing that I do. But yeah, use your stuff up. Use that beginner yarn up. Make it. Just make it. Make the stuff. The wool grows back. If you don't like it, you learn something. I'm just going to keep tossing this. If you don't like it, you learn something. You learn something valid and valuable from that experience. And also, you just might love it, because I love this. And I'm really like, for a hot second, I did contemplate just spooling it off and throwing it away. And instead, I have really beautiful yarn. Okay, back on the whip train. I have two more to show you. I don't know where my book bag project is. I thought I had it. So I'm going to show you something else. Never mind, I found my book bag project. I'm going to show you my book bag project. So my new book bag project is a grid Gambit by my friend Sam. And literally, this has been induced by FOMO. So Sam and, is it Emily? Sam and the Botanical Knitter. I think her name's Emily, but now I'm drawing a blank, so don't quote me. We're doing this cal for the last 2 months on the grid Gambit. And I was like, I am not going to cast one of those on. And then as the cal was ending, I was like, I think I want one. So I pulled out yarn because I finished my Hoarfrost and I needed a new book bag project, and I cast on the grid Gambit. So that's here's what mine looked like. I am obsessed with this lower contrast variation. A lot of the ones I've seen have been super high contrast, which, like, you know, to each their own. But I am obsessed with this lower contrast version. Both of my yarns are hand spun. Now you are kind of losing the grids. I will say that is the trade-off for making a lower contrast version, is you don't really get the sharpness of the grids. Let's see if I can get it closer for you. Yeah, so you alternate this like 3x3 grid with like a stripe situation, and you can kind of see it. But again, because my hand spun is so close in color to the my hand spun, my version is much lower contrast, which I also think is really fun. I'm on a low contrast kick. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm on a lower contrast kick. So I'll show you my yarn. So my main color is Andromeda, and this is a bat that I got from Melissa at Melly Knits. Andromeda was a CVM and Columbia cross. So really spongy yarn, but also kind of toothy. It's a really interesting fleece. Columbia is Romney. I don't know. I'll put it here. Columbia is a cross, and I know Columbia is the inverse cross of Panama, because like Columbia one's the mom and the dad, and Panama is the swapped version, and I think Columbia is a Romney Merino. I don't know. I'll put it here. But this is a Columbia CVM cross. And then my main color is called Gingerbread House, and it's on Falkland, dyed by Nest Fibers, that I spun into a 3-ply. This is a very dense yarn, which is the things that I was making in the beginning. Until I like learned how to make less dense yarns, I was making very dense yarns. And so I think a cowl is probably the best application for this, because you can feel the density. It feels dense and it feels weighty. It's not scratchy, but it feels heavy. If you've ever handled a dense yarn, you know exactly what I'm saying. It feels heavy because this is a fingering to sport weight yarn, and I only have 270 yards, which will tell you, again, how dense this is, because for a fingering weight yarn, you should be able to get 400 yards out of 4 ounces, but because I spun such a dense yarn, my grist is super, super low. So it is a good application for this. But the yarn does feel dense, it feels heavy, it feels weighty. The Columbia kind of bounces it, like with the bounce of it, I think that's going to balance out that fabric. But I don't know that I would have any other application for that sort of yarn, besides maybe throwing it in like the yoke of a colorwork sweater. It works really well here, but it just, again, I spun this in 2022. It's really interesting to be working with my older yarns. I spun this on my first wheel, actually. I spun this on my Spinolution Bullfrog, which I never spin on anymore. But it's been really interesting to pull out my older yarns and see what I've learned from them and like see what they've taught me. It is perfectly usable. It is just, I've just gotten so used to knitting with my current yarns, which are lofty and airy and less dense, that to pick out a dense yarn and start working with it again, I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of weird. Like, yeah, my hands don't like this so much. Oh, there's something a bit interesting about this. Still making, you know, lovely fabric. It is incredibly consistent yarn. It's just a denser yarn because I learned and I improved. So yeah, you know, use your yarn. Like, see what your yarn tells you, see what you learn from it. This is knit flat, and then you block it, and then you seam it. This is my first time doing this sort of construction. I know Andrea Mallory does a bunch of cowls like this, like the Traveler cowl and the Inclination cowl, and all of them are like that. I've never done a cowl like this where you knit it and then you seam it. I will say, because I knit left to right, my increases are always the opposite of what the pattern says. I ran into another person who was knitting left to right in the wild and getting really like stressed out about it. And I was like, hey, I can help you. I know how to do this. She was trying to be like, someone who normally knits right to left was trying to help her. And was like, they were running into a little bit of like a kerfluffle because she was trying to like swap what she was doing to teach this person. And I was like, no, this is literally how I knit all the time. I can help you. So because I knit left to right, my increases are always going to be on the opposite side. So normally the increases are on this side and this is the angled side. So my cowl is going to lean this way. And I think like Sam's knits leans this way. I mean, most of the time you can't tell in my finished fabric that I knit in the opposite direction than other people do, but I'm left-handed and I refuse to torture myself by learning how to knit with my right hand. But here's my work in progress. Number 3, this is my book bag project, my grid Gambit, and I imagine it's only going to be with me for like 2 or 3 more weeks. If that long. It is very fast. I cast this on 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm halfway through. I'm like actually 3/4 of the way through the second chart, and then there's just 2 more charts, and you block and you seam. So I think maybe like a week or 2, and then this will be done. And then I'll be figuring out my next book bag project so that I have something on the go all the time. And the last whip I'm going to show you is another test knit that I don't have much to show, but I did cast it on and I do want to talk to you about it. It is the Softly Vest by Sarah Opie at S Knits. I've tested for Sarah before. Sarah designed the Laneway sweater and I tested that for her. But I was really, really invested in this vest. It is a vest with double knitting on the side, and then you use a button closure. And one of the things I was really like interested in was because she used three yarns marled, and I was like, oh yay, more way for me to get stash out. So it's 3 yarns marled. So I asked, I applied to test it, and I got picked for the test. I did knit my gauge swatch, and I'm on gauge, and all I've cast on is like this much. Like I've just cast on the back, and then you do the double knitting and the increases. I've never worked a double knitting band, so I was reading the pattern, and I was like, what is she talking about? Like you knit, and then you go backwards, and then you go backwards, and you go forwards again. I was like, what is this? And then I started doing it, and I was like, okay, I understand now. So now I've kind of picked it up. The first few rows I had to knit with the instructions. So I was like, what is going on here? But this is my first time working anything double knit. I'll show you my yarn combination because I'm really excited about it. I'm also knitting using hand spun with this. I guess this is like, not everything has hand spun, but like that's part of my jam is I knit with mostly hand spun. So here are my yarns. So this is hand spun. My lights are really doing some work today. I really gotta figure something out. This color is called Wisp, and it's by Wee Chickadee, and it's really pale. It goes from like pastel green to like a light blue to like kind of like a mustardy yellow, and it's on Cheviot. And then this is CVM by Knudsen, and I bought this at VKL in 2023 because I didn't go last year. Did I go last year? I don't think I went last year. Must have been 2023. I bought this at VKL. The one time I went to VKL, it's CVM 2-ply fingering weight yarn. And then my mohair is Hedgehog Fibers mohair, and this is the color Sage. And so I'm holding all 3 yarns together, very a la Doppio. And then this is my fabric. It is reading this very warm gray-green. Focus camera. There you go. It's reading this very warm gray-green. I don't know that the transitions in the hand spun are going to become apparent as I knit this fabric. I can see the yellow here, but because there's so many yarns held together, I don't know how obvious it is going to be that this is a gentle color shifting yarn. We will see what happens. Oh, you can kind of see like it's color shifting back here, but it's like really gentle. Like it kind of all looks like it's one color. So we'll see what happens as I work through this, but I'm really excited to have another vest. I love vests. I'm really excited to have another vest in my wardrobe and to just, again, get more yarn out of my stash and to keep working with hand spun. This is a recent spin. I spun this last year. But the point of this was to see what yardage I could get out of a single 4-ounce braid. I have 720 yards out of this, which means this is mostly light fingering 2 lace because it's 700 yards, but held with the CVM. It bloomed a lot, and with the mohair filled in the gaps. And I have gauge. We are knitting this on with the recommended needles, which is 5.5s, and the gauge is 16 stitches, and I got gauge right away. I didn't even have to swatch a second time. And this fabric is beautiful. The CVM is beautiful. The Cheviot, the mohair, it is like really, really exciting. So again, I have very little to show you, but I did cast it on, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm very excited to like work on it. The whole thing is knit stockinette flat. So there's going to be a lot of purling because you do all of the back with the double knit, and then you pick up at the shoulders, and then you do all the front with the double knit, and then you knit the collar. Like, do you remember that I couldn't remember the word collar? You knit the collar in the round. So that is the construction for this. So lots of stockinette flat, but also lots of good D&D knitting, because once I get past the increases, it's just going back and forth, and this will be a good project to take to D&D. Or when I get my Northern Lights pullover in the round, that'll also be a good project to take to D&D. I like having something to knit on, especially when we're in combat and things get tense. Yeah, so those are all my whips. I do have some acquisitions this week. I didn't have any last time, but I do have some acquisitions and some like fun news to share. So we're gonna get to that. So if you watch Gab at Plies and Hellhounds, Gab was talking about doing a Sam t-shirt. Gab is also very good friends with Sam. Hello, Gab. Gab is also really good friends with Sam, and Gab was talking about knitting a Sam t-shirt, and I messaged Gab, and I was like, hey, friend, do you want to do a knit along? I was like, psst, psst. Do you want to make one of these with me? And Gab was like, yes. So Gab was actually in the process of testing a new base, and this is a wool and linen base. Do you remember how I was just like, I don't knit fingering weight t-shirts, and I don't knit with summer yarns? Yes, this is where I go, haha, past Tazhi, you're a knitting. So I have 2 skeins of her. This is non-superwash merino linen base, 500 yards per skein. So I only needed 2 of them. And this is the color Gable that she's testing. I saw it and I was like, this is giving me sultry mauve energy. And I want a sultry mauve t-shirt. So we're going to knit the Pampas tee by our friend Sam. I guess I should start calling her our friend Sam. So my plan is to cake up one of these skeins and swatch and see if I get the right gauge on my first swatch of needles and see what I have to do to get gauge to knit this. But I do have these 2 skeins. This is my first time working with Gabby's yarn. I am going to try to do helical knitting, although these look really consistent. Do I just go for it? I rarely knit with hand-dyed yarn, and I rarely knit with hand-dyed yarn if it's not held double with like a mohair or something. So now I'm like, do I just go for it? Do I do the helical knitting? It looks pretty consistent. I don't know. I'll make a decision when I cast on. But this is my first acquisition. Acquisition number 2 is a box from... Hold on, I probably should have this open. It's a box from Aimee. Aimee Sher makes. Because I am... because I don't have enough going on. I'm going to be testing Aimee's new tank top. And so I got some of this Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Plum Rose. I've never knit with this base, and I've also never knit a tank top. So, like, again, literally all that madness that I was talking about knitting fingering weight t-shirts, I take everything back. I was just like, everyone wants me to knit with summer yarns, and I don't want to. I lied. I'm going to. Also, we're going to call this being in my wine era, because apparently this is like my summer vibe era. So I have 3 skeins of this Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Plum Rose. And the other thing that I have in this box is 4 skeins of... Now, is this Sauna? Is it Sauna? It's Wool Dreamers Sauna in the color Sari Chef, and it's their cotton and Gosh, I'm such a liar. Past Tazhi should get it. Past Tazhi shouldn't be allowed to talk with future Tazhi. I have 4 skeins of this fingering weight or a sport weight cotton and wool base to knit Aimee's Slightly Sassy V. And I guess Past Tazhi is not completely wrong, because I have not found a summer base that I like. So instead, I'm just going to keep trying. So I take back everything I said about the internet. No, what happens is I'm incredibly susceptible, and everybody on the internet yelling at me to knit summer t-shirts, they got me, I guess. They got me. So I did get this from Aimee. And I also got a little shawl pin because, here's my shawl pin. Focus camera. Because since I'm knitting shawls, I felt like I should have a shawl pin. And I took pictures of my Hoarfrost and just was really sad that I didn't have my new shawl pin. So I have a shawl pin. And the last thing in this box is Aimee does have an exclusive scent of Tough Woolens. And my current bar is empty. So this is what I use. Tough Woolens is what I use to block all my knits. It's also what I use to block all of my yarns. This is Citrus Grove. Smell good. This is what I use to soak all of my yarns with. So I did get one of Aimee's exclusive scents. I am an affiliate of Aimee Sher Makes. I did buy all this with my own money. I just want to say that out loud. This was not sent to me. She did send me some stitch markers in my package. Look how cute these are. Oh my god, this camera is being evil. This is also in, like, hold the phone. Okay. The lighting. But she did send me some of these metallic Progress Keeper stitch markers, and they're all like tea themed. So this one has like a little mug, and then this has like 2 teacups and some little, like, I'm assuming these are like tea leaves. So she did send me a few sets of their Progress Keepers tucked into the package, but I did buy all these with my own money. I am an affiliate with Aimee, and my thing is I really want to partner with brands whose vision match my own, and Aimee does really do a lot of work to source and stock like non-superwash yarns and stock non-superwash alternatives. And so that is that. So if you want to, support the channel, support the vibes, the link is in the description box. You know how affiliate links work. It costs you nothing, but like if you're going to be buying something and you want to get it from Aimee and you want to like support the madness that I do here, I am incredibly appreciative. Thank you. The chaos continues apace. These are from Yarn Jam by way of Shop La Mercerie. I was watching Jess spin this particular braid. I am really susceptible to influence on the internet. I take back everything I said earlier about people yelling at me. But Jess was spinning this braid and I was just like, no. So this one too. This is on the Shanago base, which I've never tried before. This is Merino and Rambouillet. So I don't know if it's half-half or it's like a weird mix. Now, if your old hats will know that merino's not my jam. It's not my vibe. Not merino, Rambouillet. I'm fine with merino, but old hats will know that Rambouillet is not my jam. So I'm wondering if having it mitigated with merino might make it more interesting. But this color palette, is my jam. This is called Fall Patina, and this one is called January Skies. So I have these two from Shop La Mercerie. And the other thing I grabbed, it's so noisy. I finally grabbed one of these like Coco Knits makers boards. My friend Judy uses it, and it's like an 8.5 by 11 makers board to put your patterns on. Because I always have a book bag project on the go, I've been using like paper patterns more, so I'm not on my phone and constantly referencing my phone patterns. One, to get me off my phone more often, but two, because it's just easier to have a paper pattern out. And what is going on? I was watching Judy knit with one of these, and I was like, no, this is incredible. So I did grab one from Jess at Shop La Mercerie. I also grabbed the ruler and some extra magnets. So you put your pattern here, it can stand up, and then you can like work from a paper chart. So I grabbed this from Shop La Mercerie, which I think is going to make book bag knitting, especially since I want to like knit more lace. I've been really enjoying knitting lace. I think it's going to make book bag knitting so much better. And now my patterns are protected instead of just grungy pieces of paper floating at the bottom of my bag, which is literally what it is right now. Okay, last acquisition is this sweater quantity of Rauma Garn Feenul in the colors 4129 and 406. And these are the colors. So this is going to be the main color, and this is the contrast color. And this is to make a Scotch Pine by Alicia Plummer, because this is going to be my Rhinebeck sweater for this year. I'm calling it now. This is going to be my Rhinebeck sweater for this year, and these are the yarns I'm going to make it from. Now, this is from the Wooly Thistle. Because I've really wanted to try this base I've wanted to try this base for a really long time, and I love that the Wooly Thistle, again, their mission is to source woolly yarns and put woolly yarns out there, especially yarns that are like not normally available in the US. This is Norwegian. I want to say this is Norwegian. If I'm wrong, please tell me, but I want to say that this is Norwegian. So I got 2 of these. I think like 9 of these, and that is what I need to cover my body with the Scotch Pine pullover. Now, in the same vein as I was talking about Aimee's shop, the Wooly Thistle did invite me to join their affiliate program, and I was just like, yes, for the same reason that I'm an affiliate with Aimee's shop, because non-superwash wool yarns out there in the world, yes. Now I will say this, I did buy with my own money. Like I do believe putting my money where my mouth is, and I did pay for these. But they did invite me to join their affiliate program. So again, the link is in the description box. If you plan on buying yarn from the Wooly Thistle and you want to support this chaotic endeavor, that will be there. They're currently sending their affiliates 2 skeins of their house yarn, Rambler, to try. So I asked for Golden Fern and Lake. And while I was at it, I have 3 skeins of Lake because there's a plan. I have 3 skeins of Surrey dyed by Newburgh Yarn Co. in the color Lake Life that I've been holding to make a Metropolitan pullover by Tori Yu, and I've just been waiting for the right fingering weight yarn. And now I have it. So the Rambler base is, now they've said that this is designed for sock yarn, but I don't knit socks. I've never met them. I've never met a pair of socks that I will finish. I've knit 1 sock multiple times. I have never knit a pair of socks. I was talking to Casey at Young Folk Knits about trying again with small circumference needles. I have the Chagu mini sets. I might try again. I don't know. But this is Dorset Corridor Romney 80-10-10, 420 yards per skein. Again, they're marketing this as their sock yarn. Socks are for the birds. But I think this held with that Surrey is going to make a great Metropolitan pullover. A lightweight. Tori's patterns have this like contiguous shoulder construction that look like a hybrid of a drop shoulder and a raglan. And I've been really interested to try it. And I do like that the Metropolitan pullover looks like a lightweight springish garment. So that will eventually get made, or I'll eventually get started in the middle of the frivolous cast-on party that I've been having. So I do have these 3. And then I actually have a plan for this single skein. I'm thinking about making the Mara shawl. It is a 400-yard shawl, or shawlette. And I think that this would be this would be a good color on me. And also it's a single skein of yarn. Also, maybe I'll knit it into socks. We shall see. Chances are it's going to be a shawl, but maybe I'll knit into socks. But also look at this color. It's like glowing. There's just enough Romney in here to add that really luster of the long wools in here. Just enough. So yes, so they sent me these two. This also happened. So that was my order from the Wooly Thistle. The link is in the description box if you're interested. I'm really interested in trying this ramp. Also, look at how the shine. Oh my God, Romney is so lustrous and so beautiful. I imagine that shine is going to be dulled by the Suri when I hold it double, but like, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Okay, that's it. That's it for acquisitions. We're going to quickly talk about a thing that is sparking joy for me this week. And then we'll call it done. Okay, so the last few times, oh, my shirt's all disheveled. The last few times we talked about a book and we talked about a TV show. Let's talk about a game. The thing that's sparking joy for me is my obsession with the game Balatro. My friend Judy talked to me about Balatro and she was like, it's like a solitaire poker deck builder game. And I was like, you're throwing all words at me that I don't care about. Solitaire, for the birds. Poker, not it. A deck builder, whatever. And then we went to Iceland and I watched her play it and I was like, okay, this game seems kind of fun. And then I downloaded it and I have just been obsessed. I've been obsessed. One of my favorite things about Balatro is you can start it, put it down, pick it back up, and your run continues, right? So you're not stuck glued to your phone playing it like never ending. So like I pick it up on the subway, I play a hand. If I'm on a break at work, I pick it up and I play a hand. But it is so much fun. It is so much fun. And as you play it, you unlock more jokers and your deck, it's a deck builder because as you play it, more cool things happen. I love Balatro. Like, I really love Balatro. There's a whole Balatro subreddit where, like, some of, like, these people should be, like, curing cancer and, like, finding world peace because some of the best and the brightest minds are in the Balatro subreddit talking about, like, ways to, like, energize your runs and to get unlimited runs. And I was like, these people are brilliant. I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm over here playing 2 pairs all day, every day. Some days I play a straight when I'm feeling really fancy. I played my first Royal Flush the other day and I was just like, woohoo, look at that. But I'm a 2 pair all day, every day. But I love Balatro. It's a really great game. It's on, like, the phones for like $10, but I now have Balatro on like every system. I have Balatro on my phone, I have Balatro on my iPad, and I have Balatro on my Switch. And the stupid thing is, you can only have it, like your deck is only on the system that you play it on. So my deck on my iPad is different from my deck on my phone, which is different from my deck on my Switch. So sometimes I'm like, where is this joker that I know I have? And it's like, oh no, I have it on a different device. So, there it is. We're adding to the chaotic element of an already chaotic game. Some of Balatro does feel luck-based, but also a lot of it does feel skill-based, and I don't know that I have the skill for it, but I'm getting there. So if you're looking for a silly little card game to keep you engrossed in the middle of the doom scrolling, guys, interrupt the doom scrolling. It's bad for you. Nurse's orders. It's bad for you. If you're looking for a silly little phone game to interrupt the doom scroll, I highly recommend Balatro. I've been having a lot of fun. I'm trying to convince Joshua to play it. He has not bitten yet. But I imagine that the second he does, we're going to be up all night just being like, can you talk to me about your Balatro strategy? Can you tell me what you're doing? But it's a great game. I really enjoy it. It was like a silly little indie game. It almost won Game of the Year, and then it lost to like Astrobot, which I didn't play Astrobot. I bought Astrobot, and then I watched Joshua play Astrobot, and he beat Astrobot and caught all the bots. But I don't know that Joshua's aware yet, but they've been releasing new levels of Astrobot. So now I'm going to be like, hey, there's new levels of Astrobot, because I don't want to play Astrobot. I want to watch Joshua play Astrobot, and I want to knit. Yay, neurodivergence and parallel play. So yes, anyways, if you're trying to interrupt the doom scroll, because you know, that's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you're trying to interrupt the doom scroll, Balatra's there. I did get a comment about like trying to keep my podcast politics free, and I'm just going to say this. If you've made it all the way here, you're a real one, because this has been going on for an hour. So if you've made it all the way here, you're in it. Here's what I'm going to say. One, I don't have the luxury of saying, of not being political. Everything about my personal life has been politicized. I'm a Black person and I'm a trans person. Like, that choice was taken away from me. I don't have the choice of not being political, but also like I'm an empathetic human and I care about other humans. And even if you don't think that like your personal rights and your liberties are in danger, which if you think that, I don't know what version of reality you live in, but even if you don't think that, if you're watching other humans be put in danger and have their lives in jeopardy by the administration that we currently live under, and you don't care, I don't know what to tell you. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know what to tell you. So no, I will not have my space say politics free. I mean, I can't. Like, I literally exist in a political space. All of us exist in political spaces. I will not yell at you about it because there are enough people on the internet. And I also don't think I'm informed enough or intelligent enough to do that. But like, if I throw a few asides out there, it's just because I'm a person living in a bad place right now. And sometimes it comes up. So if that's not your vibe, then like, this might not be the space for you, and that's okay. There are a million voices on the internet clamoring for your attention. You're welcome to find a space for you that fits there, but like, don't come into my comments and tell me not to do that. That actually, like, it's not it, because it takes more energy to leave that sort of comment than it does to just, you know, walk away. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That's it, guys. I told you it was going to be a long episode. I've been up to a lot. I've been making a lot. There's been a lot of stress knitting. There's been a lot of me staying up till like 11 o'clock at night, just knitting in the round. And I'm really grateful that I have my hobby again to help me like hold it down. Also, so many people told me what they were making in the comments last week, and that was great. So if you want to tell me what you're making, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube things. I am still on Instagram. We'll see how long that lasts, but I'm still on Instagram at Tangles and Starlight. I am on Ravelry at Tangled Starlight. I'm out there doing my thing. I hope you are also out there doing your thing, and I hope this podcast inspires you to continue doing your thing, because what did we say last time? Joy is an act of resistance, and making is an act of resistance, and they want to take a lot of things from us, but they cannot. They cannot have this. I love you. I really do, from the bottom of my heart. Go make something fun today. I'll see you around.